I'm on Zoom. All right, so we are live now on YouTube. This is Scot Pekarek with Tumor Tales. Boom! Today we have a special guest on the special live episode of Tumor Tales, Kyle Miron, who he and I actually met via social media. I think the genesis was the Tumor Tales channel, I believe, Kyle.
Yeah,
and we've determined that we are kindred souls. So I gotta do one change here right now because I'm getting feedback. It's coming at me twice. So anyway, so Kyle, you have a book that you wrote, which I've listened to the audio. Fascinating stuff there. You are a brain cancer survivor. Very inspirational story to me. Do you want to maybe just tell us a little bit about, well, the name of the book is Brain Status Unremarkable, correct?
Correct. It's right here.
That's correct. Awesome. Do you want to give people just a brief history of the genesis of your tumor, the ultimately how you went into healing, remission, what's the word? What word do you want to use? And then we are going to, deep dive into a few topics. So Kyle, I'll let you take it away and tell your story.
Okay. Hey, well, Scott, thank you for this platform right now. When we had our first phone call, took us a while to get connected, and finally, our first talk, 45 minutes. Obviously, you enjoy the time on the other line. But I think right now, I'm not even sure where to begin because I've said my memoir so many times. I went down with a medulloblastoma in 2016, and that's the children's version of the big boy glioblastoma. And the medulloblastoma had an 85% success rate in children. That was the one thing that was unique about it. This was specifically more of a toddler's tumor, and it had an 85% success rate with proton radiation and chemotherapy. So at 31.8, I went in with emergency brain surgery to remove all size brain tumor off the top of my cerebellum, which is that medulloblastoma location. And there were 3 other tumors that were in the middle of my brain.
And did they see those tumors originally too, or were those something they discovered?
They weren't quite full tumors. They were tendrils that were beginning to form in inoperable areas. But at that point, every doctor besides one said, you should probably plan a funeral. You should, maybe get your things in order. I mean, and this is kind of where the culmination of the first start of the book started. That's where I looked the doctor right in the eye. Like, I can't. Oh, okay. I just said, fuck that, doc. I'm planning my future. Okay. I looked over at my former wife, and she had a bump, 8-month-old bump. I had a 2-year-old boy at home. That was my moment to put the sword in the ground right there. No, sorry, that's not happening. I have a way different plan that I'm committed to doing. So, that was the genesis of the book. I like that word you used, because right before I went into brain surgery, I wrote a letter to my sons. And it was my death poem, but for a very long time, I knew I was going to die around that age, which is the real peculiar aspect to why we are here today.
So what was it that led to you deciding that you were going to focus on the future versus the fear? Because fear is a manifestation of our past experiences, and I have found that, and most people who are future focused on a bigger future tend to do better in life, and not just in business, but also in health,
Right.
spirituality and stuff. But what was the what was the decision point, or how did what triggered that response?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. I've been a long time believer that ultimately thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. If there's one thing that Buddha, Jesus, and Einstein all agreed on, it was that imagination is much more powerful than knowledge or facts or statistics. So when, the doctor gave me the diagnosis, I was already envisioning throwing stones into Lake Superior with my sons. So that it's whatever his viewpoint or diagnosis or whatever it was, really didn't matter. It was like Neo in the Matrix, just seriously putting the bullets up. Like, I'm not even hearing that, dude. Sorry.
It's funny you made that reference, because there was a video I was listening to or half watching when I was supposed to be working today, and it was Bruce Lipton. He was talking about the quantum field, quantum mechanics, and quantum physics, I guess is a better descriptor of it. But he referenced the Matrix and how there is time itself is relative, and if you do research into quantum physics and really I did a quick video on this Sunday. It's the intersectionality of faith, religion, and science, and how there's this false dichotomy that exists with many people that you can only be religious or you can only be science-based. You can't be both. And I've wholeheartedly rejected that, because I think there truly is there's an intersection there, and there's a kind of like yin and yang, but if you look on the what is it, the little symbol, the middle is where both darkness and light exist. And I believe both science and faith or religion or theology exists together in the reality that we live in, and and how time can be relative, and how you can manifest not only things in your future, but also you may be even able to change the past. And that's where things get really crazy. Yeah,
definitely. And one thing that has brought me closer to my relationship with time is that I'm a filmmaker, and I was a former photographer. So I literally stop time for a living. And I've realized as a time stopper, there's a ton of responsibility that comes with that. I mean, phones have made it super easy to just do it now, but like when you really stop time, you're manipulating the moment, and you're putting out your perspective for those that are going to see this picture, for instance. Same thing. And that's a very important reason why, Hollywood even exists, and all of this stuff exists. At the end of the day, it's all energy, and it's a big show is what it's coming down to. But I can go on for a long time with that.
Well, and we will over time.
I know that.
But okay, so you went into surgery. We'll back up a bit. You wrote the letter to your children, one unborn.
Yep.
And you have two?
Yep. 6 years old and 4 years old.
Okay. And then you made it through surgery, it would seem, it would appear. And what happened next?
Okay, so I made it through the surgery, the first one, and it was successful. There were a lot of coincidences, kismet, synchronicities, you'd say, that allowed me to even have the surgery. This was a pretty scary fact that happened the night before I had to have emergency brain surgery because my organs were shutting down. They had to make the decision. An Amish family of like 12 got hit in their buggies by a pickup truck on a back road. So the ICU filled up, dead children and things. It was awful. And, but at the time, so what that did is I already was scheduled for surgery to save my life. And this Amish family, this happened. So there were no rooms for me. There were no beds because it's the ICU was filled up. It's Fort Wayne, Indiana, so the hospital wasn't that big. So they ended up putting me in type of like not a full janitor's closet or anything, but it was a side room that had heat and that they could wheel an IV on. So that was just the first of many miracles that, started appearing for me.
Let me back up a second. How did they find the tumor? Like you said, your body's shutting down already, and they had just found it, correct?
Yeah.
So what happened? How did they discover it? I mean,
well, I was having migraines for a while, maybe 5-6 months, and then, but I just didn't have time to be sick. That's how a lot of it goes. And instead of really going in, I actually started a new business and bought a food truck and added even more stress to my world because I'm Kyle Miron. I'm a superhero. I can do anything I want. I'm a college basketball player, blah, blah, blah. I could do anything. But no, I started getting double vision. And on some days, you don't even want to know what triple vision looks like because it's not cool. But I should not have been driving a truck. But then, yeah, there was just one morning I got up and I couldn't see anything, or everything at least was really blurry. And I was supposed to go to lunch with my former wife's father-in-law. It was like a big lunch. And I couldn't get out of bed. So she brought me to the emergency room and they put me on a smock right away because I was just out of it. And then they did a quick CT scan and showed me the tumors.
Okay. Crazy. And then your body, like within days, is shutting down a day. Like you were.
Yeah, my balance was leaving. Like I was on like the next 12 hours is something's going to go down. There's all, it was right on the top of my cerebellum. It's pretty common in toddler cancers.
Right. So then when you got out of surgery, you had recovery. What was the protocol? Were you doing radiation, chemo, any drugs?
Well, it got actually ugly after the first surgery because my head filled up so much with blood liquid that they had to do a second surgery to put a brain shunt in. Oh. So now I have government plastic right here, Uncle Eddie, that goes right down to my stomach, drains fluid. So I'm cyborg Miron now. It's okay.
Is that still in place?
Oh yeah, I don't want to. We don't even talk about that. It's pretty gross. It's all grown into me now.
Right.
Anyway, so after the second surgery, I was in a lot of pain. And I was in a comatose situation. And that's where Eliza told me that I was just whispering for hours or randomly through hours, be like water. Like, be like water. Because well, for a lot, at first when she told me that, I thought it was like Bruce Lee, my man. For sure. I thought that was like, be like water. But I found out later, in certain research that it's actually, in the Bible first, where when you first hear the sound of God, it's the sound of raging rivers. So that's kind of where the rest of my speech and campaign and book started going was when I came out of it.
Okay, so you came out of it, and then what?
Okay, brain damage. Here we go.
Which is a good segue to another question I have. Well, I guess we can ask it now. Do you notice any long-term effects? From resection?
Oh man, I still only have 45% of my legs. I can't jump off the earth probably. Like I can't jump. Stairs are my nemesis, most definitely. Chemo is still like coming out of me through my tongue and armpits, and it's still seeping out of me from the treatments.
And that was 2016?
Yeah, I had to get November 11th, 2016, I went down to surgery, and then I did, it was pretty much just healing until that point, just resting. And then end of December, like the 20th of December, I had to go to Northwestern Research Center in Naperville, Warrenville, Illinois, to get the proton radiation and the chemo. Because what was peculiar about the medulloblastoma is that my doctor said that, hey, if it's an 85% rate of success in children, let's double the dosage. So they doubled the dosage with this tumor. So it was a double amount of proton and radiation and chemo each week for a month. And I was able to go home on weekends. It was an ass kicker.
So you had a month of that, and then you went home. And how long before you were like, I don't say, never be back to normal, but how long before you were functioning? Like
sure. I mean, I started functioning again back in, in maybe May, April, May, around there. That would probably be about the time. I still had to do a monthly or bi-weekly chemo, so I had to have a port. And then they had me on this lomustine drug, which was pretty pricey, that I had to take. But yeah.
That wasn't covered by insurance? Was that the one that, okay.
Yeah.
So the whole process was about 6 months from resection to somewhat normal, but you were still doing chemo every 2 weeks?
I did chemo for, I think it was 2 months. Yeah.
2 months. Okay.
Not even 3 months. So 2 months of bi-weekly. So maybe 6 sessions, something like that.
So how did they get, like, they had, obviously the chemo was able to pass the blood-brain barrier. Like that's the,
I can't speak on that one, bro. I can't speak on that.
No, that's all right, because that's one of the big challenges with brain tumors, and it's one of the reasons they don't metastasize if they start in the brain, because they don't go through there's a barrier in the brain, which is, it's there to keep out toxins from reaching the brain. It's one of your body's natural defenses, and you think about it as a bunch of think of Cheerios that line your brain, and then when they expand out, okay, to kind of block they block toxins from reaching you. That's why it's hard for a while. It was hard to scan the brain, because the dyes and solutions they put into your body, your blood, to be able to do like MRIs and stuff, wouldn't pass the blood-brain barrier, so they couldn't do scans of the brain. So, and I'm oversimplifying it. I'm probably, got a few decimal places off on my description, but I mean, in layman's terms, that's what the blood-brain barrier is there. That's why a lot of treatments won't work for brain cancer. So, this is Scotty's research in the last 14 months, but there's extensive data on this on the internet. If you need something to help you sleep tonight, look up the blood-brain barrier, folks. Anyway, so you went through the chemo, and like what was your mental state, like, say, after the last round of chemo? And
I was pissed. That this was a reality that many millions are facing. I was angry about a lot of aspects of what was happening. I know that might not have been the best way to look at it, but I mean, it went down in the prime. I got 2 boys now. I made it through, and now I can't even play basketball or jump with them in the driveway. I mean, I could still beat them, but I can't do what I used to do. And so yeah, at first I was really pissed, but I've let all of that go now. Believe me, now I know it was destined and all that aspect. But I just I felt like a number. I felt like I was just I don't know. I made a lot of requests during the process, and it confused me why some of these things weren't happening. And we'll go into detail later. about that possibly as we get deeper with it. But I'm at this point now where I've realized that we are literally in a generation of cancer right now. We are right there at the peak, the crux, whatever you want to call it. Our entire generation is filled with cancer. And it's not just physical cancers. This is where I'm trying to get at with my book. Cancer is evil, bro. We all know that. In fact, now could it be the time to show it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good segue because, cancer, I've heard it described as, I think it was a Bruce Lipton, he describes it as, different diseases are manifested by different emotions. And cancer is one that is manifests once you have hatred, or you carry on hatred or anger, in your heart, in your mind. And I think show your picture, because that one really resonated with me when you showed it.
Yeah, 100%. So when I say cancer is evil, that's what I'm really getting at. I believe that it is actually an evil intelligence. So when you're saying with anger, that's almost at that level of rage, hate, and I want to say I actually had that for someone while this was beginning to grow, and they had that for me. Believe me, that was how it works. So I'm honored to show it to you. So this is what pissed me off too. That's also why I was pissed in understanding what we're up against. So this was my tumor. I hope you can see it. Tell me if it.
Just raise it up about 6 inches. There you go. Perfect.
So I don't know what you see. Tell me what you see.
I see the pentagram, or on the goat. It looks like a manifestation of the devil with a cloven hoof to me.
So yeah, and in the tumor?
And the tumor, that just looks ugly, nasty, and angry.
Okay, so you don't see these horns?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That's what I mean. There is not a doubt in my mind. If someone wants to say, oh, that's just a different angle. Okay, whatever. I don't care if that's another angle. That is the freaking Baphomet in my brain. And that is exactly what I believe cancer is. I believe it's an actual intelligence that is sent by other forces that destroy dreams and joy and imagination without fear. I feel and happiness is probably the most powerful fuel in the universe. And then you have this one thing, this evil entity that could so easily transform and mutate into other diseases and things. And it just shows up and derails all of that joy, for eternity. That's the darkest motherfucking thing in the world, I think.
Right.
That is some evil stuff. And that is what really got me so motivated to dedicate the rest of my life trying to eradicate this evil, which is cancer, off the face of the earth, man. That is why God kept me around.
Well, I mean, you talk about it, it's the epidemic of our times, and it's how do I say this? It's not, you got the daily news with their, daily COVID body count, but lost in all this madness right now is the fact that 500,000 people will die of cancer this year, that 1 out of every 2 men right now will have cancer in their life. 1 out of every 3 women will have cancer in their life. And I don't think we've reached the summit yet. I don't think we've hit the peak. I believe that this will continue until there is a focus on healing and food and environmental things. I don't mean, physical pollution and toxins, I mean, that's part of it, but also the environments that we live in. What is the impact of, the vibrational frequencies of these strong cell phone towers and the phones that you hold by your head? What is the impact of just being in a negative, stressful environment and how we live our lives? What is the impact of COVID and how the leaders, and I use that term extremely loosely, are telling everyone to isolate, and a whole generation of children is being scared to death over something that really, if you truly do follow the science, and I'm a man who likes science and I like facts, and you will get the very biased facts here. The fact is that children are more likely to die of a car accident and get struck, while being struck by lightning, than they are of dying from COVID. So why the hell aren't they in schools, right? I got 2 young kids who are struggling like crazy right now. Well, one more than the other because he also happens to be dyslexic, and it's killing them. We happen to be much more. I hesitate to use the word cavalier, but I always say, look, I have cancer. All right. So I guess maybe, and I've had high blood pressure, so maybe I'm higher risk than people. But through this, I've gone to work every day, and I've told my kids, look, we're going to be smart. We're going to not go infect grandma, and, we're not going to have mass gatherings of people over the age of 75 and then invite the neighbor who has COVID over to infect them all, like they used to do to us at the chicken pox parties when we were kids. But it's fascinating to me to when you think about the the mental aspect of this, like you said, the anger, the evil, like how do we, I believe that's why we met, because you're trying to get your message out, a healing message, right? If it's nothing else, it's a healing message.
I'd hope so. Yeah. It's a way to heal yourself in a way.
Correct. And do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. Right now, what I feel, I'm glad we could parlay off of each other here, is the seeds of cancer are being planted right now. They're getting planted in the tablets of our children, foreheads just right there every day, no doubt. Relationships where, no marriage is perfect, but sometimes it's nice to have the spouse just go to work, let me do my shit. And that's just not happening anymore. And on many levels, there's that you could give an example of, but what happens when you don't get what you want? Or what happens when you're kept from doing something that is your release?
Your
what
calling.
Happens? Well, you start dying somewhere, and then all of that just sadness of those dreams that are all dying start building up inside. So, I mean, I'm so glad that you and I are committed to just starting these regular now, because you look around and the faith is gone as well. So you have a lot of crumbling pieces with a lot of people who have not spent the time building a foundation to their source power. And that is where the darkness can just fill those voids instead of hope and optimism and all the beautiful things that a everyday Liberty family gets. So,
well, I think that's an issue. Like people have lost their base, their foundation, I'm not going to sit here and pontificate on religion or spirituality. I happen to be more spiritual than I have been at any point in my life. Is there a religious component to that? For sure there is. Ironically, a good friend and neighbor of ours gave me her Bible, a book I hadn't read in 30 years. Like when she found out I had the tumor last fall. And, I picked it up a few times. It largely was ignored and sat in my desk. And then last week, my 6-year-old son pulls it out of the desk and asks me what it is and asks me to start reading to him. Wow. So, and for me, that's, I'm not going to cram my doctrine down anybody's face, but I do firmly believe that having a spiritual base and having that fellowship with other human beings, not through, Zoom is great. Hey, you're 1,000 miles away. Fantastic. Right. I hope we can meet someday and I can give you a hug. Right. So like in person, but to lose that fellowship, that sense of community, I think that has negative health effects as well. for people as we isolate more, I think that's going to make us less healthy.
See, I'm telling you, when this is all said and done, I'm focusing on the kids. I'm focusing on the child, because there's at a certain age, I'm telling you, adults are just big. They're not going to listen. They are not. They just too well seasoned, and they're not going to listen. But the biggest for like my son, 6 and 4 right now. You remember show and tell, Scott? You ever show and tell how cool that was to just go up and talk about Stretch Armstrong or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whatever it was? You had to hype yourself up, man. You had to go against your peers, lay it all out there. Nobody liked sailboats. That kid was a nerd, but he probably owns a yacht right now.
Right.
So the show and tell in these moments of like smelling a kid who doesn't take a shower or doesn't brush his teeth, or gauging where you are as your other peers grow up. Like, that's the priceless failures and victories that happen every day that my kids are being robbed of. No doubt.
Right.
The facial expressions that kids get to make about how happy something makes them. Now it looks like this. It's, these seeds are real, and it goes even probably exponentially more to the parents right now with mortgages and, credit card debt that they're getting hounded for. So again, the cancer frequency is pulsing right now. And that is why I'm so honored to have so much foundation already built up with, my movement here. So I really appreciate this time right now. We're playing a bigger role than we realize, I believe.
Yeah, I believe that we all have it in us to try to help others as much as we can. And, somebody asked me why I'm doing this. I'm like, well, number one, I'm a narcissist. Number two, I'm an egomaniac. And three, I have daddy issues. So those are the three main reasons. But the other reasons are that I really want to try to help people and say, hey, this guy, this clown, he's out there just going after it, even though he could just kind of sit back and cower and I get it. Look, it's scary. Like there are weeks where I'm scared. I get angry that this has happened to me. I get sad because I think of my kids. They're going to grow up without a dad, if something were to happen to me. And it's easy to fall into the pit, and get into those negative thoughts. But I'll tell you, the thing that always breaks me out is when I do something to try to help someone else.
For sure.
And like I start this channel, and I hope that if nothing else, I can make people laugh once in a while. Right. And if nothing else, I can by exposing my humanity, they can understand that, it's okay when they're pissed off. Like, it's okay to be pissed off. Like, cancer is a bitch on a relationship, on all relationships. I mean, it tests them.
Yeah.
And it's a great quote. I was in As a Man Thinketh, great 32-page book, As a Man Thinketh, James Allen. It says, circumstance does not make the man, it only reveals him to himself. Mm-hmm. And I think of that a lot, because there's days I find myself lacking, and wishing, someone would tell me what to do, versus just trying to figure it out. But sometimes that's the only option you have is to look at the options in front of you and make the best informed decision you can at the time, but also know that, I'm of the belief that the normal standard of care and the healthcare assembly line is likely made up with very well-intentioned people, but you don't see a lot of huge advancements there in the last 50 years, particularly when it comes to brain cancer. So I challenge everyone, hey, look at all their options, do what you're comfortable doing, record how you feel when you're doing it, and then share that information. Worst case scenario, someone else might pick up a tip or two,
Yeah, I know sharing the information, I think that would be a good time is, I tried to share my message on TEDx, on the TED stage. And I've learned from that debacle how not to present my message. So I'm very thankful for being censored. They'll never show it. And I know why now. So now I've learned to pull it back. You don't have to cut the head off all the time I'm gonna start being more
Do you want to
swordless.
share? You don't have to go into explicit detail, but you kind of you broke ranks from the conventional
I'll tell you,
standard of care a little bit.
I
It's
wrote a
kind of a
couple.
funny story.
I wrote a couple articles on this, and I mean, I don't know how much time we have. Just kidding. I mean, TED is it definitely was the ultimate speaking platform. If you made it to TEDx, you're pretty high up there. Well, I was able to get accepted as one of the TED Talks at my former college in Upper Michigan. And so this specific TED Talk, and I'm glad we're talking about it because it's part of the book, is the specific TED Talk was completely ran by just kids, college kids, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. You're familiar with TED.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it is a big event, right? It's usually live broadcasted, or there's a lot of moving parts. So these kids were very proud that they were going to do this all college kid ran student ran TEDx. But so after the way that TEDx or TED works is that you get a speaker coach, and you have to perform your speech in front of the coach with the slides so that they can pinpoint and take out, like, hey, you can't say that, and that, ooh, you might want to switch that. They help guide you through it. So it was spring break, and the first coach said, I'm going on spring break. So she was not available, and she passed me on to her friend or the other coach, and she went on spring break. So I was still in high hopes. I'm an optimistic, positive fella. I'm trying to focus on the best. So I went into this TEDx weekend, and they're usually on Saturdays, but Friday night you have to give your final speech rehearsal where you show your whole thing and you do it all and you get your warm up in. Well, these brilliant individuals didn't raise enough money to even pay for a video guy to run the projector. So that's where, again, I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I keep my handshakes. I really put trust in others to show up. And when I got hit with that little respect, I should have just totally went Buddha with it and just said, oh, it is what it is, or it's such as this. But no, I got really pissed off, and I changed my whole speech that night. I stayed up till 3-something, and I took out some of the fluffier points, and I made it super cutthroat at them of what I really thought. And we don't have enough time right now. I can give you the TED Talk that I siphoned with my audio mic. I could give it to you, but I was not polite then. And maybe that paved the way for all of this.
Well, you learned from that probably more than if it had gone flawlessly and you had given your
Well, I don't know if I'm glad or whatever it is. Either way, we're here right now. I do not regret it at all. If you get treated like that, I highly recommend people letting it all out, because they obviously didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Lack of professionalism there, and it's a great story. I mean, the story is.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I showed this, I saw, little old ladies in wheelchairs crying in the front row because they lost somebody, and they're looking at exactly what ate him. Yeah. So I was glad I got it out there. And then once they censored it, that validated so much that I am hovering on some serious truth here. Maybe it's not all true, but some aspect of my talk, hit the right word.
I think the big thing is, like, I harp on this frequently. on our other podcasts we do too, and that is, people have to keep asking questions and being curious. Children are very curious. To children, children don't ever stop asking why.
Yeah.
They don't get, pat them on the head and shush them away and they go away. No, they want to, they seek answers. And to them, like that curiosity that's so ingrained into a child is so powerful. And you see that in life, that either gets beaten out of us, or it gets worn down, it gets blunted. Use your own analogy or metaphor. But the problem with folks now is they're too willing to accept the opinion of someone in a white robe just because they're wearing the white robe. And I'm not saying, don't trust your medical advisors. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, don't be afraid to ask questions. And if the answer doesn't seem kosher, maybe do a little research on your own and dig a little deeper and ask those questions. You might be amazed at what you find out, and you might find answers to questions you haven't even thought to ask in that process. And cancer, I feel, paralyzes you, and it shuts that down in people more so than ever.
Well, here's the thing that I'm realizing too, because my campaign and crusade here, if you will, is to reach 5 million brains, 5millionbrains.com. That's kind of the funnel aspect to it. So
that's your website.
That's the part of the website. And then it branches off into Cancer Samurais and then my speaking platform that I'm setting up. But the biggest thing, if I get a certain amount of million people ready, I want to have a discussion. I just want to have a discussion worldwide about the language being used to give diagnoses. That is probably the best preventative medicine we could ever do. Because just as you said, right now, especially in the COVID, you got a patient, everybody else is a lot in right now. You hear them. The doctor delivers the diagnosis. The patient has to deliver that exact message as well. Not probably exact. It's going to be missed because they use a bunch of big words, and then they deliver their version to their family. That's all the family has to go off of. That's it. So let's say that the doctor says, first thing he comes, he goes, ooh, oh, I mean, this is like extreme. Oh, it doesn't look good. It looks real bad. I would say you have this amount of time to live. First of all, like throwing that out there, and then, so what and then go right into recommending, not asking how you feel. No.
Right.
This, and we recommend this. So why don't you get your things in order, and then get back to us with how you'd like to proceed. Okay, so there's that I had to go through, that many people are going through right now. They relay it to the family. Grandma heard this. Everybody heard this. And it's just, what does it do? It ripple effect. That's now where you're starting from. You're starting down away from, you're starting so far from possibly the truth into this despair, just severe despair on many levels. So I'm saying with this discussion now, having that first language, imagine a doctor who is not afraid of being sued for some sort of statement about healing that says, hey, Roger, you're in for quite a battle, brother. But I got to tell you, a lot of people beat this, that it's been way worse. And we're going to give you the best treatment possible. So what I need you to do is go home, drink a ton of water, start thinking about your life and the choices that you can make differently and the food, just like seriously go and give them something
have
some
gratitude. Yeah.
Better. Just feel better in this moment, bro. And then they tell that to the family. Now look at that ripple.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Like for me, that's the first doctor told my wife, I was in California. She's at the hotel. I'm in the hospital. No one knows what the fuck's going on. And
Right?
they tell her, oh, he's got a glioblastoma and could be, he'll probably be dead in 3 months. And she's just like, and I'm in the hospital, like sleeping comfortably. Cause I was like, the doctor was like, and she wasn't a neurosurgeon or anything. She's like, I was kind of joking around. She's like, you have to take this seriously. I'm like, and I just looked at her and I just said, look, with all due respect, I said, if you tell me freaking out right now and overreacting is going to help me heal faster, I said, I'll do it. But I don't see anything that's going to be helped by me freaking out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sleep. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to talk to your neurosurgeon, your neurologist, or whoever the hell's coming in. And then I'm going to enjoy the rest of my vacation because I feel great right now, by the way. And when we get back to Minnesota, then we're going to go talk to somebody there. And I'll tell you the one thing I'm not going to do. And and unfortunately I have the luxury of it. And I think some of that might be me manifesting it. I'm like, I'm going to figure out what is the best solution for my condition. And a lot of it was, just be healthier, And hey, Kyle, I've made a lot of mistakes in the last 18 months. A lot of things I've felt and a lot of emotional roller coaster that I'm not proud of, but there's one thing that I won't stop doing is trying to, be healthier, right? And look for a different path. Because one of the things they told me is that, well, if we split your skull open, you may not be able to speak for 9 months. And I'm like, well, there's worse things that can happen to somebody, but for me, I mean, my God. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the end goal for me. I mean, someday down the road, I'm saying 3 years, I'd like to. I do want to open some cancer centers for children and their parents to come for free. And it's not about finding the cure. It's just about seeking wellness, as much wellness that you can actually bring. That's the place where I just don't think disease can touch. When you're in pure joy, pure love, that frequency, there's no way disease could just pop in. There's no space for it because you're just filled with such light, So that's my big end goal. And as we go further here, I just really don't think cancer stands a chance if we have enough people commanding it to leave, not just finding a cure, like each individual person taking ownership of the cancer cells in their body and fucking killing them and doing what it takes to kill it. That's it, man. You're going to be on your own to make the choice. God's always there to give you the wings, but you have to jump off that cliff, man, and completely change everything you know about what you think even especially yourself. Like your ego needs to be destroyed, completely destroyed. And that's where, when I go with my this cancer samurais, I was a former samurai in my past life. So me talking about death and blood and killing and all this stuff, this has been my life for many lives. Where I'm from in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I've killed and gutted deer, like 3 deer. I've wringed necks of partridge and pheasant and gutted fish. And so
that's like in the UP, that's like a bar mitzvah or like a confirmation, right? You have to go kill and gut your own deer, but they don't let you use a gun. You have to use a knife. And
come on, it's not that good.
I've been to the UP. My wife's from the UP. I've been up there about 40 times.
It's a special place, but my dad did teach me certain survival instincts about, being able to provide your own freaking food by killing it. And that's probably not something that a lot of people have just killed. Maybe they have a bearded dragon. I have one, so they give them birds or, but when you've already used the knife, going under the knife it's not as scary. It wasn't. And but hopefully in the future, we won't even have to consider, like you're saying, with surgeries. I've seen leaked videos where tumors disappear in a minute. Just saying, I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
it.
no, I've seen the same ones. I mean, it's remarkable what we don't know out there. It's kind of like I like the Sherlock Holmes approach. The Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, great character, but he was great at not seeing what everyone else saw. It's what you didn't see,
Mm,
what was missing. And right now I feel like there's so much missing in terms of healing cancer and treatments, because we're all focusing on what's right in front of our nose versus, okay, what, like, not all of us, we obviously aren't, but like, what aren't we looking at, right? Like, what are the simplest things
yeah.
we can do? And I'll tell you the simplest things every human being can do right now. Three things. One, eat healthier, right? Living foods, I'm not saying you got to go vegan. In fact, there's some people that argue that's maybe not even like the healthiest route. I'm not going to get in that debate right now. I don't have a horse in that race. But number one is just eat healthier. Because I know firsthand, you cannot work off a poor diet. You have to do the diet first, then the exercise. That could be going for a walk every day, once or twice a day for 20 minutes. Who doesn't have 20 minutes a day to go for a walk? Yeah. Okay. You can say, okay, people with broken legs, or, okay, well, then take a wheelchair, right? Like, there are very few people who don't have that luxury, and I'm sorry to those that don't, but the rest of the people, you're just making excuses. It's just BS excuses. And the third thing is adjusting your mindset, right? Just how you look at life and living in gratitude and just being thankful. Hey, how about this? I mean, I'm sure you do it every day. Are you thankful that you're alive?
Mhm. Every
I
day.
mean, no matter what happens, I'm alive. And negative, toxic people, I give them the benefit of the doubt. I try to cheer them up, right? Because we all have those bad days. But people who are, negative and toxic in perpetuity, get them out of your life. Tell them shape up. You're welcome back when you can, work it out. But if you're rejecting my help, and them, it's like the damn Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. The guy who walked around. Oh, sure is sunny. Well, I guess it's gonna dry out. It's just like, well, it's gonna rain. Hey, good thing it's raining because the crops are getting water. Yeah, until it floods us out. It's just like, no matter what you say, it's just like, they just live in this perpetual state of negativity. So I don't know. You do those three things: change your eating, get a little exercise, and change your outlook on life and turn it to positive. I mean, it's like people always like laugh at me because I have like these stupid sayings I look at every day. These affirmations, and
Well,
and
we're in a tough time for that because we're in just a world of grass is always greener. So
well,
even
yeah, and then you turn the damn TV on and it's goddamn, it's fear porn nonstop. I mean, they got the goddamn body count going
but
nonstop.
even when you do change your habits, you do it. We're so conditioned to have everything Amazon primed right to us, and that six pack doesn't show up. If that flabby skin doesn't go away in a certain amount of time, then you feel like a failure, piece of shit, and then you
Yeah.
get, instead of enjoying the grind. That's my big hashtag. Like really enjoying the transformation that you are doing yourself. And yeah, you're exactly right. You're
Yeah.
exactly right.
The true winner just likes to run. And the reality is there isn't a finish line. It's a daily, just be thankful for the day. And no matter what happens, because some days are going to be awesome. Some days are just going to suck. And no matter what you do, and just, when they really suck, be thankful for that, because there's probably a lesson there somewhere, right?
You have to say thanks for everything. Are there any comments that or questions that people had?
Questions, please put them in the comments. I should have said that sooner. If and we'll try to address as many as we can in the next video. We're running long here, so we
Yeah,
should
okay.
wrap it up.
Sure.
And people, if you wanna get notified of new videos, hit the little bell button. And if you want to add this to your YouTube feed, hit the subscribe button. hitting that and hitting the like button does increase our ranking in the algorithm. So if you truly think the message here is valuable, hit like and it'll reach more people. If you just can't stand us, well, just send me, go on Facebook and troll me there. Kyle likes to be trolled too. So
fun. Yeah. I'd say if anybody right now knows anyone with cancer or recently diagnosed, especially, get them to 5millionbrains.com, download the free book, donate anything, $5, you get the audio version. Just let's do what we can. And I'm trying to eventually give the book away for free to everyone's, but we have to get it out.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I'm Scot Pekarek. Today with us, Kyle Miron. I said that wrong the first few times, but I got it right today. Miron. The book is Brain Status Unremarkable. And before we let people go, tell them why you gave it that name.
Okay, yes. Brain Status Unremarkable. I gave it that peculiar name, partly to make people curious, but most importantly is in the official medical system, you are labeled with a number, you have codes, and you become this avatar in their program. So when you are officially cured of anything, when you are in full remission, you get a printed out piece of paper that says, for me, it said brain status unremarkable. This robot does not have a soul. It has pure statistics that is giving you its printed out facts. You are an unremarkable piece of shit. So the book itself is a remarkable approach to attacking cancer because you are truly remarkable. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, thank you. I think we better wrap up now. Yes, we will be back, and everyone, if you have comments, questions, please post them in the comments. We'll go through and answer them either in writing on the page, or we will cover some of them on our next video. So thank you all. Merry Christmas, and everyone enjoy the holidays. Be thankful, live in gratitude, and as always, boom!